Hi, this is Tom Young. I'm back in the studio here with Bob Petrelli. We're going to continue our conversation about what's happening in Branchburg. So, Bob, the topic we want to talk about right now is emergency services. And, you know, a lot of people have been in Branchburg a long time. They know that our emergency services are volunteer, but a lot of people are coming into town over the last couple of years. They may have come from towns where those services were paid services.
City, yeah.
And, you know, we want to remind people a couple of things. One is it's not paid, it's volunteer. And we're blessed to have a great set of volunteers across 4 fire companies who serve us. We have 2 in town and then 2 right outside of town who serve us. So we have North Branch and Neshannock in town, and we have Reddington and Country Hills that are in Bridgewater and Reddington. And they cover the town. And there's a firemen's association, and they meet. And then we have the rescue squad there on River Road in 202. And again, all volunteers. I think we add it all up, there may be as many as 150 or more, including the squad, who serve. And then those people are also doing mutual aid to adjacent towns. And then we have people from towns next to ours who are mutual aid here. I was just at a big call out the other night. And, you know, we've had a lot of people there from Bridgewater and Reddington at this event as well. So anyway, I just wondered, you know, I know you've been involved a lot with talking with some of the issues that the firemen go through, the rescue squad. And again, we're blessed to have that many people volunteer.
We are, but you know, as you pointed out earlier, with the demographics changing and we're getting a little older, young folks just seem not to be volunteering as much as they used to in the past. So, you know, whether it be for some of our boards volunteering, but specifically for the fire department, you know, getting a young person to come in, sort of be get their way to be a probie and then an official firefighter is a lot of hard work. I mean, it takes years of work. It takes, on average, 200 hours of training?
Well, it's 200 hours of formal training to become a fireman, which is, you know, we were doing, it's 10% of a work year.
So someone has to donate 1/10 of their year to become a firefighter.
Well, and I think, you know, I try to get underneath the covers trying to get, is this a demographic issue? Is like the millennials just don't see it as part of their lexicon? And it's not so much that. That may be part of it. But it's people at that age, either they're not living here, because we talked before in an earlier discussion about changing demographics. We've had a population of 15,000 for 20 years. It's been flat. But it's been getting older. And we're seeing a decline in the school population while we see the overall population flat, which is just saying that it's getting older. So as it gets older, you see the young people who are here, they're not, if they're here, they're not working here. They're commuting to Jersey City, they're commuting up north, maybe they're commuting to Princeton.
City, yeah.
And if you don't work here or work in an immediate area, it's hard to volunteer here because you're working, then you're commuting. And then when you get here, you can only do weekend and night calls. And then to say it's 200 hours to be able to do that, it's a heavy lift. So when you combine the fact that the demographics are changing, the work location and where you live is different, and then the fact there's so much overhead, you just can't go and help. You got to be like, let's spend 200 hours, then you can help. It's like, I'm not going to do it. But it caused a real problem because I talked to some of the fire chiefs, and it's a real concern because the problem's getting pretty bad in terms of them getting daytime coverage.
Yeah, especially in the daytime.
And it has to do with this working issue. Weekends, not a problem. Night's not a problem.
Nighttime's not as bad.
And you have this issue. So, but they're the ones who are there, the 100+ people we have in emergency services, if we were to get the data on their aging, they're all aging as well. So the problem's going to get worse, I think, before it gets better. And you know, we also talked about the issue of a lot more people have fire alarms and electronics in their homes that will trigger stuff. 80%, roughly, you know, don't hold me to this exact number, but roughly 80% is false alarms.
There's a good chunk of them.
Right? And so the industrial ones, we got that. We're looking at legislation and township ordinances to make sure we're maximizing the fines for people who are recurring false alarms. Because when there's a false alarm, they can't treat it like a false alarm.
Well, they don't know.
They don't know. So they got to roll a couple rigs. And you get out there and it's because somebody didn't reset something, or and it's a recurring thing, we're going to find people as much as we're possibly allowed to make
And
that
it's even
stop.
more complex because if they roll to your house or my house, it's sort of a understood set of folks that would attend. But if it's an industrial situation, do we need the ladder truck? And if we need the ladder truck, we need the person who knows how to operate the ladder truck. So it's not just I need
Yeah.
6 volunteers who have the 200 hours of training. It's I need specialists
Right.
to come for certain industrial complexes. So
And the squad deals with similar training levels for EMT. It's one thing to be able to drive an ambulance, but to be able to perform different procedures when you see different things. There's specialties for extraction, different uses of different equipment. And we want to make sure our volunteers have the best possible equipment. And there's this tension between, writing a blank check and showing some fiscal prudence and making sure that we're not buying, 3 ladder trucks or 4 ladder trucks and we can deal with 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
How many pumpers do we have? How many ambulances do we need? How do we do mutual aid? But we want people to appreciate the fact that the volunteers in our town are volunteers. We fund them. We buy a lot of equipment and we give them some funding each year, but it doesn't cover the cost of providing the service. And if they didn't volunteer and raise money on their own through donations and fundraisers, your taxes would be a lot higher.
Well, we would probably have to increase the taxes probably 20% from the township perspective just to cover day people if we had to do that. I mean, just think about a 20% increase, right? It's all the shift multipliers, right? If you want 2 people during the day always available, okay, they're sick, nights,
Yeah.
weekends, and you got 4 fire companies, so now it's 8 times. It's a significant problem, and we're on one hand extremely grateful that we have so many volunteers that are helping, but we need more folks to come out and volunteer, and especially for the day shifts.
Right. So we're looking at resolving that through restructuring or thinking about how our employees who are here during the day, the ones that are EMT and fire certified, we can use them for daytime calls, which means we just have to make sure that the work plan that they're working on allows them to go do that, because we could have 2-3 calls a day in town. Easy for that. So we might have to staff appropriately for that, or we might make that a requirement for new staffing. But we're going to try to resolve that to minimize the impact here. But to me, if you haven't written a check for the fire companies or the squad, especially if you've got a call out,
Right.
you get a call out, you ought to definitely write a nice bigger check. But just be thankful, because go back. A lot of these people, I've seen the hours reports some of these guys put in. It's 200 hours of training just to get started, but some of these guys can put in 500, 800, even 1,000 hours a year working on the stuff. Now, they do it because they enjoy it. They love it. But at the same time, they're doing it for the betterment and the support of this town.
It's a way to give back.
And it's a way to give back. And, so if you have the means, I would strongly urge you to write a check to the squad and to the fire company that covers your area, and be thankful that they're there to do that. And again, to young people, if they're inclined, to see how you can get more involved if you happen to be here. It's a great way to get connected to the community as well. And there's a lot of the friendships I know that they have within each of the groups is very strong. The sense of community is very high. So it's good for our community in general to have more people volunteer. To me, the more volunteers we have, like, we think it's not just emergency services, but for us, a lot of our boards and commissions are volunteers. And, if you look at it, I would say we probably have 300-400 people who volunteer their time on a regular basis, whether it be everything from the garden club to the senior club to the board of adjustment to emergency services, all of these groups. Then you throw in our employee base of about 125, 130 people. You have a lot of people who are making this town what it is. It's not just the governing body. We represent the township committee, but we're like the board of directors,
Right.
in a big company. There's a lot of other people making this place happen, and we appreciate everything they do.
For sure. But, if we parse your numbers, right, those 300 volunteers really represent about 2% of the whole community. Just 2%. Now, there's other volunteers for other things that I'll call it we may not see. the soccer coaches, the baseball coaches,
Yeah.
all of that. But everybody's trying to pitch in their own way. So I guess maybe a polite nudge from us would be volunteer in your own way. Whatever piques your interest, whatever capabilities you have, please.
If you throw
volunteer.
in the coaches and all recreation and even the PTO, people are helping us make the schools better that are volunteering. Now you're probably into the 800 range. Now you're into almost 5% of the town, and then that just makes the town better. I mean, I would say towns that have a high volunteerism is one of the reasons why people like living here. It's a way to stay connected to your community. It's nice to be able to go out and see people whether it's at the store or you go to a local.
It's a great way to network.
Yeah. And it makes it much more enjoyable to live here. It's not all about taxes and traffic and development and jobs. There is a social component to living where you live, and volunteering is a way to connect to people.
And if you volunteer, your kids will volunteer, and they might get their nose out of their phone too.
Yeah. Well, I say, I like I said, I've been involved for a long time in town. To me, it's become an integral part of my life. I have a lot of friends in town. I enjoy it. I like to be able to go out and see people I know and have conversations. And everybody's got to do their own thing. But please appreciate the people that are around you that are making this town what it is today.
And if you have an inkling for being a firefighter, please visit your local
squad.
company.
Both of them need people to join them, because those are statutory requirements that we provide that. And so we have nice to have and needs to have. The emergency service is a need to have. So we're going to have to resolve that through paid staff at some point, and we're going to figure out the best cost-effective way to do that.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks.